Hello and welcome to my channel. Let me go on with the Fool's Path and with other options concerning how to use the reading, how to use the Fool's Path in a reading and to go even further into details or to use other possibilities. So I made just a small video concerning other options. I will make yet another one concerning one special option that I'm just bringing up slightly here, but I will explain this a little bit further. So when we take a look at the round table, then it can happen that the count that one of the cards is so set visiting its own counterpart's house. So you can see it here, where in the house of the world, so the counterpart, which is the Wheel of Fortune, you find the card of the world. So actually, the world as a card and as an aspect of ourselves, as an archetype, has the possibility to look at its own house, at its own place, at its own job, let's call it like that. Where this time you have, in this case, you have the Fool in there. So, and this can help you going even further into different details, considering if you find out that you had an issue concerning that special archetype, for example. So in this case, the moment that the position of the Wheel of the Fortune tells us something about our own small world versus the whole world that you find in the house of the world, now actually it may be that we are too much considering to get every detail. So we try to make our own life and in our small world, Wheel of the Fortune. And each time that we're trying to plant something, then the idea comes up, yes, but what about that person? What about that person? What about that option? What about, and maybe we become overwhelmed by it. And now the Fool in the house of the world may tell us just to give it a try. Just do it without letting go of all those worries and thoughts, and if we do not start trying, then we will stay stuck in that situation. This could be concerning the communication that you have with your client, the communication and the subject the client came up with. This could be an explanation and sort of a first step into the solution. And here again we have the situation of the house of the Chariot, which is the counterpart of the house of the Star, and you find the Chariot in the house of the Star. So this may be a warning telling you that you're too much concentrating on the goal, that you are not taking care of the steps that you have to do, or that you do not take care of the motives. So in this moment, the card like pushes you back on the Hermit, telling you, okay, when you make those first moves, when you make those first steps in the car, when you're sitting behind the wheelchair, are you setting out for that goal out of the right reasons? So this is the way that you can check again, and a little bit like in astrology, the constellation when they have the counterparts. So it pushes you back onto the other place, onto the other position. Another point is the transaction analysis. So you will hear a lot concerning the transaction analysis when it comes to me, because for me, working with my inner parts, or working with the inner parts of a client, a customer, this is one of the best things. So I apologize, I haven't translated the different positions. So I kept the German version because I made the first video in German. So you have different ego states. So I am not talking about the free child, which is shown as the Fool. I will explain that in yet another video. You have the adult ego state, which is the Magician. So what states are your child ego states and your parental ego states. So the kings are the parental ego states, the paternal ego states. The queens are the maternal ego states. The knights, it's the rebellious child, and the adaptive child is shown by the pages. So if there is a house where the moment you work with it and you see that something is triggered, if you want to find out what is triggered, then you can go by this, and you are taking only the court cards, and then pick you draw a card and try to find out what part is triggered, what part is important to take a look at this moment. So what ego state. So I made an example here. Imagine that there was a problem with the house, the house of the magician. There is the moon in it, and the person says sort of, yes, I have this feeling that here the moon has something to do with an illusion, and I have the feeling that I am fake, that when I'm talking to people and people tell me you are someone who is very self-conscious and you are very open, and actually inside I have the feeling that this is not the case. What is going on there? And the person takes the card, the court card, and comes up with the Knight of Pentacles. So the Knight is a rebellious, the rebellious child, the ego state of the rebellious child. The normal or the more natural one would be the Knight of Staffs, so the fire, because the Knight is the rebellious child is the fire, actually, the one who goes into action for yourself. Here he has the Pentacle. So actually, he shows that it's not even the adaptive child who is protecting himself, but it is the rebellious child who is just showing this maybe even rebellious acts in the outside, and people think that, oh, that's a person who is very straightforward and who dares a lot, and actually he's just showing off like that to protect himself in the inside. So that way, the Knight of the Pentacles could explain, okay, maybe I should have a good look at my rebellious child. Why is he reacting like that? And how to work with the ego states, and transaction analysis. I will make another video with an example concerning that. So what you can also do is make constellations with the cards. So you see, I have such pieces of wood with a cut in it, so you can put the cards in it. Today you find a lot of things that you can use to put a card upright instead of just laying them, because this way the cards may face each other. This way the cards may be turned back on someone. So we had a line 2, which was the line of the Empress, that only were 5 cards. And maybe the client is wondering, why are those 5 cards trying to get away from my typical line of life and the Fool's Path line? So you can use those cards and tell the person to make a constellation and then go into contact with it. So for example, as I said, it's an example. So here you have those 3. Those were put up in a way of standing and looking more or less into the same direction, while you have other cards that just turn away from the situation. So you have here this card who turned away completely. So I'm not even sure if I can see what card it is, because I made... So it's the Judgment. So while the other ones may still be in a certain constellation to communicate with one another, the Judgment looks outside. So whatever it is that is going on here, it may show you that the person is afraid of the judgment that comes from the outside. So the person, for the moment being, is not trying to bring those parts in. Maybe you see it could be, if it's a woman, it could be a question concerning female, the femininity of the person. So is there a problem concerning that part? to shine with it, you know, to really show that you are a woman and that you want to be treated as a woman, even if maybe you have a job where you live in a typical male job, for example. Because me, for years, I am always in jobs that are very technical, and so a lot of people forget that I am a woman, and some people talk like that to me. Well, I don't care, because I grew up with a lot of boys around me, so I can handle it, but maybe another person cannot handle it. So let me say it's something like that. And the tower shows that this picture that a person has of herself, let's say herself for this moment, is just breaking apart, and she tries to just keep it out of her typical life, because of the fear of the judgment that may come from the outside. So let's keep up the straight face. If I'm bringing it up with the example, because it's still the same layout, it's still the same reading, that we had the magician with the moon and with the Knight of Pentacles before. Maybe that's it. So maybe it's a person who brings up a very male behavior and feels very fake, and she does it because she knows, or because she has the feeling that if she becomes more female in the position that she is at her work, at her job, then maybe the other the other people will treat her differently, and will and that is the thing that she may be afraid of. So that can come up with a constellation, and the constellation can also be used to find a solution. Another thing that you can do is making, for the house itself, making a reading with the rest of the cards. So I'm always bringing it up like that. You have the roof. The roof is the thoughts. It's the air card. The living room, that's the life, the physical life. So that's earth. And then you have the cave, which is the subconscious, the feelings, and water. And the door, that's the action, where you go outside of your house and you go into action. And now it depends on what cards you have. If you have a card, I made an example here again. It was the Hanged Man. And you have in the roof, you have the swords. So that is air. And you say, okay, maybe it's someone who is thinking things over, retrieving a bit. That's the Hanged Man. So it fits perfectly. Sort of, okay, the moment the person gets out of doing things and just letting things go and using that time out to think things over. But in the living room, we come up with a Two of Cups. There's a lot of emotions in it, and maybe the person you see, you don't have an Earth card, so maybe that is missing. So whatever the person comes up with ideas, has a problem to bring them into its life in a correct way, in a way that fits in a certain way. And the fire is also in the cave. So even in the cave, it is not something the person does not accept or has a problem to handle their own feelings, and maybe is stepping into action, not to take care of the feelings, but the feelings are there, they are obvious. And on the other hand, the door, the outside card, the person is trying. So we have an Eight of Staffs, we have an Ace of Wands, we have fire, we have action. So the person is trying. So the person can base the good things here to heal the rest of it. So this is yet another one. That is not something I am telling you to do it with every house, but the houses where a person says, I see there is a problem, I don't really get what it is, why I'm stuck on that house, on that position. A small reading apart with a minor arcana can help in that moment. And then last but not least, we still have numerology and the quintessence. So this can help you. I don't pick one out as an example, but this can help you to get an overall picture. First of all, you can check, is there a number that turns up more than once, for example? This is one of the things that you can take care of. You can check, you have here, for example, the magician, because of the sun, it goes back to the magician. So you have the one. You can also take a look at the house number 10, because you had the 10 before, which is the Wheel of Fortune. So, and it is really a thing of taking a good look at myself, shining light on who I really am. No, sorry, it's not the sun, it's the moon. Sorry. So this thing we were talking about it before as an example, that a person may think that he's a fake, and the impact that this has on him. So working on, what does the moon also say? It tells us something about our rhythm, our own rhythm, about we have here, as I said, I used the example as a woman, and the moon is a female card, so really bringing up that female intuitive information and and power, because I just need to take a step just next to it. We have the high priestess and we have the devil, so it's something that the person is completely denying. And when I'm saying that here, the high priestess and the devil, we have a quintessence of 8, and the 8 is the force. So we become aware that this may be, so this way you can go through the steps. We have a problem here that switches us back to, as long as you're not going to solve the problem, you will stay the person you are right now. The moment you include and you let yourself become more feminine, more intuitive, you have a chance to get shifted over to the 8, and to find that force behind, to find peace with the force that you really have, and that you are denying during all that time. You could go even on. So there you have the quintessence of 3. The 3 switches you back to the Empress, so switches you back in the line of the Fool's Path and of the Fool's Map. That way you can work also with the quintessence, with the numerology. And this is just, I sometimes have the feeling I am scratching the surface. So we have numerology that are brought in. I had a friend of mine, I made a reading with her, and she had an astral theme later on, and she said actually the astral theme said exactly what you said in the reading of the Fool's Path. So you can even go and say, okay, what is your house number 1 telling you in astrology? This is just to show you how far you can go with this. You can use such a reading for years without even having to redo it again, just using it as a base, and with all the other options that I showed before and that I'm going to show, because I'm coming back to the transaction analysis in the next video. So you see, this is, as I'm saying, if you find other things, and if along the videos you said, oh, I would try this and I would try that, please knock yourself off, try it, or either just for fun or because that will show you a way how you are going to use the reading, how you are going to use the Fool's Path as an active reading, and not simply as an explanation as the different steps of the Fool's Path is showing your life, but how it is your life, your individual life, not just life in itself or human life in itself, but your individual life. And if you have other ways and other ideas you want to bring in, just do it. I am using the reading, for example, also later on. I keep it as an image, and you can throw runes on it, just as an example. And then you have the position with the card and maybe a rune that is lying there. So just be open, bring in your fantasy, your own ideas, your own ways that you have to use something like that, not simply as an oracle, but as a way to find yourself, to recreate yourself, and to create your future in a way that you feel that you, well, perfectly fit into what you imagine. I hope this gives you ideas of how you can use something as amazing as tarot together with other possibilities. And I hope that this gives you maybe the idea and the fun to try it out. Or even logically, if you like, you can come back to me, contact me, and I make a reading for you without any problem. So if you like videos like that, please, you have the possibility to subscribe my channel. You have the possibility to like the videos, to check on the other videos I made. So thank you again for watching. And until the next video.